This is the K31, a Swiss military bolt-action rifle. This is a superb rifle that I put a scope on it. Now, don't worry, it's not a permanent modification, and I'll explain more about it. But first, what is a K31? K31 was designed as a main rifle for Swiss military and actually derives from its longer predecessor, the K11. It is a superb bolt-action rifle. It's chambered in 7.5 by 55 Swiss. It's a very capable round, it's powerful, has a good ballistic coefficient, and of course it's very accurate. And like all Swiss weapons, carefully crafted, high quality production, and unmatched accuracy. Let's go to the main features of this rifle. Now you can already see something different with the bolt. This is a straight pull, so unlike most other bolt-action rifles where you have to unlock the bolt, pull it back, and then lock it back, this one is just straight pull. So you pull towards yourself and then push it into battery. That's it. This makes for a very quick operation, and it's a very cool feature, something that you don't see every day. Now the rifle has a removable magazine, but you can actually load it from the top with stripper clips. It has a double stage trigger, a very nice double stage trigger. So you have the first stage, and then now it fires. And this thing, also the ring in the back, if you have a light primer strike, you can actually use it to cock the firing pin and shoot again. Or when the rifle is cocked, you can decock it in this way, or maybe use it as a safety in this position. Not sure, the Swiss bros will correct me if I'm wrong. This rifle is very accurate, but it does not have a free-floated barrel. It uses a very interesting system where you have this wooden buttstock and then the upper part that connects here and at the end of the barrel. Now, if we open this up, we can see that the barrel is free-floated from the receiver to here, and only here in this part it's actually clamped by both of the wooden pieces. My prediction is, or my assumption is that because the barrel is not super thick, it has some vibrations when you're shooting, and the stock actually stabilizes it. Because this is another point of contact for the barrel, and since it's wood on steel contact and it clamps the barrel very uniformly, it allows for contractions and expansion under heat in different conditions. But the overall point is that these rifles shoot very, very accurately. So whatever the Swiss did, it works. So why did we go and sporterize this rifle? Well, we kind of didn't completely. So it's a bit of a clickbait. When I got this rifle used, it was not in the best condition. The stock was already lacquered. I think it was not how it would come from the military. So someone already did some changes to it. I didn't really care much for the goldish blonde color of the stock, and it was shiny. Also, there was some rust on some of the hardware, and when I shot the rifle for groupings, I was disappointed. So these are my first shots with the K31. And I'm not sure if it's the ammo, if it's the rifle, or it's the sights, but the grouping of 5 shots is less than ideal. The thing is that first I need to figure out if I'm actually aiming correctly through the diopter sights. They have a lot of adjustment. They have an iris adjustment here and on the front sight. I think the only way is just to shoot more and figure this out. As you can see here, I was shooting at this dot and I was always in this grouping until I extremely adjusted the sights to the other side, and then I was here somewhere. If I had a scoped rifle, if it was grouping very nice groupings, I could do different groups for different variables, but now it was kind of a guessing game. What I was getting with normal ammo was indicative that something was not right with this rifle. Going through forums and reading a lot of stuff online, I found out that if you have a rifle that has a good action, a solid barrel, a decent trigger, but it's still not shooting well, then one problem could be the ammo, and the second issue could be that something's wrong with the stock. So with bolt action rifles, usually you have a couple of options trying to accurize them. The simple one is making sure that the barrel is free floated. What it means is that you're trying to set up your stock and rifle setup in a way that your barrel is not touching the stock. Now with this rifle, getting it free floated is probably not the best idea. First, I would definitely destroy the look of this rifle, and I don't want to do that. And the second thing is that reading a lot about these rifles is that a lot of them will shoot worse if you free float them. These rifles are very abundant in Switzerland. People use them for sport shooting. They really sporterize them. They put them in aluminum chassis, or even they do some crazy things with them. But a lot of people were reporting that when they free float the barrel of this rifle, they get a worse accuracy. So on my part, I did a quick test. I removed the upper wooden cover and I shimmed the stock in this position so it was not touching the barrel. So technically the barrel was free floated on this rifle, and then I shot it again for groupings, and there wasn't really any noticeable change in the grouping size. So my second idea was, what about the contact between the action of the rifle and the wooden stock here? So I looked online, there was not a lot of info, but I decided to glass bed this rifle. Why? Because I did this procedure in a couple of different rifles already. I know how to do it, and every time that I did it, I got positive results. An additional point for glass bedding this action and stock is that everything is hidden inside the stock, so even if it doesn't work, I did not really destroy the outside look of the rifle or the functionality of the rifle. I am confident that glass bedding will not deteriorate anything, especially not accuracy, but even if it doesn't help the accuracy, it's just the same, I didn't really destroy the rifle. First, I took the rifle apart as far as I could. I cleaned all of the parts and started with the wooden stock. First, I applied a paint stripper to the whole stock, and then I used different techniques of scraping and brushing and using rags to remove as much of the lacquer as possible. I used solvents and water to remove the paint stripper, and then used different grits of sandpaper and emery cloth to smooth out and improve the look of the stock. When the stock was completely stripped, I also decided to enlarge the grooves on the wooden stock and the wooden cover, and in that way making sure that the barrel was truly free floated in that middle part where it should not be touching the stock. And I also addressed the part of the stock where the barrel actually touches. For glass bedding, it's important that you have a rough and clean surface where the epoxy can really adhere to the stock. So I use different tools to roughen up the area, remove some of the extra material, remove some wood, and at the end used a lot of nitro and other solvents to get all of the dirt, grease and oil away from the wood. Before applying epoxy, it's important that you go through your action and tape up all of the holes, especially screw holes and some other areas where epoxy could get in, and then you will have a problem removing it or even taking your action apart from the stock. What I'm using here is a cold weld epoxy. It's a very strong epoxy with a steel dust filler. So this gray part that you see here is actually steel dust, and that gives it a lot of compression strength besides the tensile strength. This epoxy is not specifically made for glass bedding, but you don't need a specific glass bedding compound. You can find that a lot of aftermarket compounds are perfectly good enough for this application. The goal here is to apply a lot of epoxy, more than you need, because you want it to fill all of the voids where the action sits in the stock. In my case, I decided to glass bed the whole action plus the area of the barrel, the thicker area of the barrel, where the chamber sits. And I wanted to support the full chamber, and then everything forward should be free floated. Now with the epoxy applied, we get the stock and the barreled action together, and we tighten the screws, but not completely. We do not want to squeeze all of the epoxy out. We just want to have some tension between them, so the epoxy goes in all of the small nooks and crannies, fills all the voids, and stays in a similar position where it will sit when it's finally mounted on the rifle. Next day comes the scary part, where we're trying to remove the barrel action from the stock, but it took some time and it took some beating before it released. Now I just clean and trim out excessive epoxy, try to clean up the stock, and if there is a part of epoxy that didn't fill out completely, if we have some pockets of air or some area was not molded correctly, and repeat the same procedure until we get the proper result. One area that it's probably most important is the recoil lug, where a lot of force of shooting, the recoil of the barrel action, is transmitted to the stock itself. The end result, a much better looking rifle in my opinion, more accurate and better shooting. So I would say that's a big win already. Additionally, I still wanted to get an aftermarket scope mount. This is a non-drill scope mount. It just clamps on the side of the receiver, and a powerful scope on it, because I don't have that good of a vision anymore, and I don't want to rely on my eyes and iron sights for testing accuracy. Now with this, I eliminate the variable of me and my poor aim, and I can test how much accuracy we can still squeeze from this rifle. Now unfortunately, it's not a sub-MOA rifle with a 10 round groupings, but I already knew that all along. There's not a lot of rifles, especially military rifles or surplus rifles, that can achieve that. The difference is that people usually shoot 3 rounds groupings or 5 round groupings, and with that you can get lucky, and even rifle that is not capable will shoot better. Well, technically it will not shoot better, but you will just have a luck of stringing 3 or 5 shots very close together. But with a 10 round grouping, it's almost impossible to get lucky and get a better grouping than the rifle is capable of. So upgrade good. My idea for the next video is I'll try to develop hand loads specifically for this rifle and barrel, and hopefully that will give me that bit of extra accuracy to come close to 1 MOA with 10 rounds. I would highly recommend glass bedding of rifles, because in most cases you can get more out of the rifle without a lot of extra cost.